right, calling the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Here.
Washington.
Here.
Pergola.
Here.
Slice. Middleton.
Here.
Gapke.
Here.
Westerhoff.
Here. All right. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So this is
Public hearing.
the purpose of this portion of the meeting is to look at the amended budget for fiscal year 2022. Mr. Glitchley.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's better.
Technically, this is the public hearing for
It's a public hearing, yeah.
Just for our amended budget. So as I've presented to the board for the last several months, we knew we were going to need to amend our budget for a couple different reasons. First one being our bond revenue that we received. So we have a transfer later on in the agenda for that. The other item is transportation costs. And so we knew over the last couple months where we were trending. So needing to make an adjustment for the transportation fund. And again, that comes back to mileage costs and just the fees that we have going to first student. And then lastly, our administrative cost gap, making an adjustment based on what ISB recommends for our director of curriculum position. We're able to take some of those funds and expend them through just the ed fund as opposed to the special services account where they had been charged to. So the administrative cost cap, just a little bit of context, you have to have a less than a 5% increase year over year out of your administrative costs. And so those are your administrators, and Tim, myself, as well as our director of curriculum. So based upon where the time is charged for the director of curriculum, we're able to move some of that based upon the work that was being done. So those are the three big components. There's a presentation in the board packet, as well as then the amended budget that you'll see in there as well.
All right. Any discussion, any questions by the board? All right. Sandy, did we have any public comments?
We do not.
All right. Then I need a motion to adjourn this portion of the meeting.
Furkeluk. Middleton.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, ayes have it. All right, now I'm calling to order our regular meeting of June 21st, 2022. Roll call, please.
Gurecki.
Here.
Washington.
Here.
Pergola.
Here.
Slice. Middleton.
Here.
Gapke.
Here.
Westerhoff.
Here. All right. We just did the pledge. Request for agenda item. Any additions to the agenda?
There's not addition to the agenda, but for personnel, we do have one hire that came through today that we want to make sure got on because the next board meeting isn't until August 16th, which is the day of our Teacher Institute. And so Doug Kropp is an addition for the PE position at Reed on the agenda. So just want to point that out. But it's not really an addition to the agenda per se because we already had the personnel agenda in there.
It was already in there. All right, recognitions and celebrations. Our state track participants. Who's up?
Oak Prairie's representing Mrs. Forecast.
Okay.
Happy to do that, yeah. If you guys want to stand up, my track athletes here. All right, so I've got a congratulations to our Oak Prairie track team for their great season, highlighted with qualifying for the state meet. And here today are some of our athletes that qualified for the state meet. We're very proud of these student athletes and their coaches, Ms. Paul, Mr. Jacobson, and Mr. Atkinson, and we appreciate their hard work and dedication. The student athletes and their qualifying events are Gracie Kane for the mile, Bella Barrett for 800 meters, Nicole Kutchett for pole vault, Katie Peets for the mile and the 400 meter run, Ava Lundstedt, the 4x200, Bella Ryan, the 4x200, Sydney Klein, the 4x200, and Rome McCarr, the 4x200. And then Riley Repoach, the 4x200. We also have Zane Zinkowski for the 400 meter and the 4x400, Jonah Brownlee for the mile, the 800 meter, and the 4x400, Henry Icing for the mile and 4x400, Dominic Prairie for the 4x400, and Aiden Murphy for the 4x400. A special congratulations to Katie Peach. She was our student athlete who placed at the state meet. She placed 5th in the mile and 8th in the 400 meters. this year at Oak Prairie. So Jonah Brownie broke our mile, right? And our, what other one?
Oh, the 800.
The 800. So and Henry, like they were so close together. It was like Jonah and Henry crossing the finish line at the same time. So nice job. And then Nicole Kutchett is our first pole vaulter we've ever had. So she set a record for pole vaulting.
That's awesome.
Awesome job. Awesome job, you guys. I'm so proud of you.
Can I add one recognition? So what's not in the agenda, because it's hot off the press soon, is that Bill Rank, our music teacher and band director at the junior high, we knew last week he was a quarterfinalist in the Grammy Award for Music Educators program, and he emailed me yesterday and let me know that he is a semifinalist now, and so you'll have to wait, just like any good drama on TV, until August at that board meeting, but we'll have a recognition for him. We don't know if he'll be a semifinalist, or I don't want to jinx him, but it'll be that or something else. So congratulations so far, and to be continued for Mr. Rank and the band program as a whole. So that's great.
Deserved.
Awesome. All right, student report?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. All right, for families, we're gonna move on to our regular business portion of our meeting. You're welcome to stay, but if you would like to take the opportunity to take some pictures, if you want to, as a team or anything, and then we'll move on with our meeting.
Then you can use your track skills if you want.
Yeah,
Sorry, I had to go there. Yeah.
Why don't you guys come on up for a picture? We'll get you up here. We can get the board around you. We'll stand
Yeah, come on,
behind
guys.
you.
Jonah, Zane, come on, Katie. Come on, guys.
We need proof that you came to the board meeting.
Don't look so excited all at once, guys.
Yeah. Why don't we do it before we get to the, right here.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mrs. Donkey claims front row. Not only do we have fast runners, they're all very tall. Got everybody?
Hang on, one more, sorry. Okay, ready? Yeah. Thank you so much for looking at me. Can I roll? Thank you, sir. From this angle. Right. Okay. Look, I'll see you there. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy your summer.
Yes.
I love your shoes. Thank you. You're all coordinated.
They're Steph Curry's.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, I get it now.
Yes.
Come on now.
Yeah, thank you.
I had it on the day of. I don't have it on.
I'm excited. Hi, how are you? Good, good.
Run by my house just about every day.
That's cute. All right. Shannon, AFT report? Okay. Thank you. Sandy, public comments?
None.
All right. Administrative reports. Dr. Arnold.
I have no reports in this section. I have some things embedded throughout, so pass.
All right.
Take all your
Like our track students, we're setting records here. Here we go. Mr. Blakesley.
Not to take all your time, Dr. Arnold, but
I can see my-
gonna try to get through this quickly. So in the board book, there is obviously a business office update, but we have Joe Barkas here from Henry Brothers. So I kind of thought we'd lead off with construction, since that's everybody's sort of hot topic, and there's some great stuff going on, and we're gonna see the continued build out. So Joe, I don't know, just for microphone purposes, if you wouldn't mind coming up to the table. I asked Joe just to come in and give us maybe a couple minute overview of sort of how things are going, schedule wise, and other issues that might be popping up, and he's here to answer any questions.
So right now, we're moving along forward very well. We ran into some unforeseen underground pipes or collapsed pipes that we were supposed to tie into. So there's a little bit of rework and some design that had to happen to get those corrections made. but now we're past that part of it. So we're moving forward. I think you've probably all seen a little bit more activity. Steel's up at Reed. Friday, we're getting steel here at Ludwig, and Tuesday, steel at Walsh. The framers started today. They were laying out walls, getting ready to start standing up some metal studs on the renovation portions. Mechanical contractors are on board, getting ready to start roughing in as soon as those walls are up. Underground work is completed inside the building, so we're going to be starting pouring slabs. So things are moving in the right direction now. We had a little sluggish start with what we were finding. You know, we're basically through a lot of the unforeseens that we could encounter, whether it be underground or in the walls. We might find something as we're digging across. I know there's a little bit of a lengthy underground that's got to happen here and at Reed. But whenever we come across, we'll do what we can to resolve that as quickly as possible. So yeah, I mean, things are moving along really good. We've had with the unforeseens, we've slipped a little bit in areas on the schedule, but we're also able to start picking up some of that time. So we're moving forward. We ran into a couple little hiccups with ComEd getting going, but they're starting to move forward with things, so that's working out well. But yeah, right now, I mean, we're doing pretty good.
And we knew that the way we ended the school year was the way we were going to begin the next school year. So from an office build-out standpoint, we knew we weren't going to have entrances ready to go day one. That's why we've kept the mobiles. That's why we've pretty much transitioned staff to understand, this is where we're at. This is the schedule. The strike, is there anything you can offer about the quarry strike?
Yeah, so the quarry strike that happened about 2 weeks ago, and that threw a little wrench in things, just simple as getting the stone to backfill the foundations and, the stone that goes underneath the slabs. So we had to find another source because all the local quarries were on strike, so we went and found somebody else, and with gas prices and longer time frame, there's a slight upcharge for it, nothing too crazy. But it was able to, we were able to keep moving. The concrete suppliers, they had enough stockpile of stone to get us through a couple weeks. So we're working with them to try and pour as much as we can so we can get through that part of it. We're still going to have more once we do the site work on the outside of the building. We're kind of hoping that that'll be resolved by then. If not, we'll have another place to get concrete if we need to. There's other contractors outside of the strike area. Again, it just with trucking, there's a slight upcharge for it, but we're going to try and do our best to avoid that if possible.
Just kind of thought it was important for Joe to be here since there's we're not meeting in July. Just a lot's going to be happening over the next month. Does the board have any questions of Joe at this point?
And I could send an update in July that if want to get passed around so that at least everybody's got
across the table.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I love pictures, so.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we can always do a tour too, whether it be before or after a meeting or something.
that's
If that, sometimes it's nice to be able to see it yourself. But
Yeah, you appreciate
however
just
you guys want to do it.
the space at Walsh in particular. Once we took out the walls at Walsh, you realize from one end to the other just how much space that we're taking over from that foyer. The bathrooms are out right now, and then all the old office is demoed. So quite a large area. Melissa, sorry.
Oh, sorry. So I have one question for you, and then I just have one statement for the administration. Any other supply chain issues?
There is some, our mechanical units, the rooftop units. Right now, they're telling us those are going to be coming in late October. We did find out today there was a couple of the heating panels in the office areas. I think these in particular are for Reed. Those they're telling us now December, but that's not a primary heat source, so I'm not too concerned about that. We've had the problem with these in the past, just because the amount of schoolwork that goes on, and that's something that the engineers typically use. So we can close up the ceiling and then install those once they come in.
Okay, great.
And then, just to reiterate what Dave said about the entrances, going to be remaining at the school year ended. So I just want to make sure that we stress the importance of safety when school starts, and that, doors aren't left propped open, or, we saw what's happened recently. And so I just don't want faculty or anybody to get kind of sloppy because the entrances aren't the normal entrances, right? We want to make sure that the students, once they're in the building, doors are closed and it's a safe environment. So that's all.
Yeah, and our goal is to make sure the outside work, the concrete sidewalks, the paving is completed for the start of school. We don't want to see what we've got out here right now. We're taking advantage of nobody being around, so you guys don't want to be walking around piles of stone and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we want to make sure it looks nice and cleaned up for the start of school.
Perfect.
Yeah, I was basically, again, what I've always asked you to supply chain, where's our choke points, but more importantly, when it comes to the entrances, we'll have the glass up, we'll have the doors in. Whether they can actually access isn't the problem. As long as they're buttoned up and, locked up, that's again a key that, from a safety standpoint.
Yeah, I think we'll have to really take a walk around, before school starts to just double check everything, make sure everybody understands. We'll provide whatever barricades we need to make sure people don't exit through the area unless it's, an emergency exit only type situation. But yes, we'll definitely police the security in the school.
To amplify that point a little bit, and this is ironic in a good way, I guess, but sad. The day of the Uvalde shooting, one of our principals did what they do routinely anyway, and just put out, it was prior to the shooting, but just happened that morning to put out another reminder to staff, because it's that time of year, like, hey, make sure you don't use the wrong doors, don't leave them propped open, etc. It's the kind of stuff our principals remind people and monitor all the time. Frightening that we did it the same day that happened at that school in Texas. But I guess I do share that to give the board some level of confidence that we've always been on it prior to that, but will continue to be. So we take it seriously.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something that's really got to be looked at, because it's, it's an unfortunate situation that happened, and you don't want to have anybody get in the building that shouldn't be there.
Absolutely. Any other questions for Joe?
I did have one question. With the extra costs coming up, I know you said they're not a ton. Was that considered when we were doing the budget, almost like contingency, or will we get something in another meeting?
There are allowances are built into the budget. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, we do build them in just for unforeseens that do come up. We can't account for all of them, but we try and do our best, from what we've seen in the past. You do have a lot of clay underground, piping for storm and sanitary. We've talked about it. It's something that's going to have to be looked at down the road for future projects. We don't want to change it all now, but it's something in your best interest to look into, because that stuff over time does collapse and will kind of clog up a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
That answers that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Weekly meetings with you and them continue
and
throughout
so
the summer.
Every Tuesday, Henry Brothers, DLA, our architects, reps from the district, we attend a meeting. Happy to share those minutes. Happy to share, change orders. The change orders are things that Joe's talking about. If something comes up like a collapsed clay tile and we have to fix that. That's a change order to what we were anticipating, that, extra cost, if you will. We've had to do soil testing. We've had to do, all the other testing that we've had to do. So those things come up, and that's kind of where we talk about those things on Tuesday mornings. Happy to share that information if anybody's interested, as well as, the project plan and how we're doing it.
Yeah, when we run into problems like that, we run into soil issues or the pipes or whatever, we try and work kind of out of sequence as best we can to keep things moving. That's why you're going to see, ideally we'd like to have the slabs poured and then put the steel up so they've got a nice flat surface to work off of. It's a little bit safer for everybody, and then the framers can start working right away. But we're doing our best just to keep people moving.
Great. Well, thank you, Joe, for being here. Appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Sorry, man, I just gotta zip through a couple more things and I'll try to be.
Board communication wise,
Yes.
though, we had talked about maybe putting something in the weekly notes. So I'll add a section in the weekly notes and just rely on you to let us know if it's too much, don't read it. But if it's not enough, let us know what you're still wanting more of, and we'll give you as much as you want throughout the project.
Absolutely, yeah. Within my board update then, there are lovely pictures taken with my iPhone, so the resolution is not great. Couple other things though, obviously in my board packet, I did update what construction is happening for next summer. So we're already in the planning stages for 23. That's parking lots, playgrounds if we can afford it. So there's a lot of work, particularly at Reed. So Reed is one of those locations that we've got the septic field that's going to be moved. And I've already talked to the board about our water situation at Reed. And I am hoping to get a solution ready to go for the board that we're going to have to move on now. It's a 6 to 8 week lead time if we do a water filtration system. I've had 4 vendors come out and give us their estimates, and it's ranged across the spectrum. So I'm actually reaching out to the Water Quality Association out of Lyle and getting a couple other vendors that we can select from. So I made contact with another one. They're going to come out on Tuesday just to look at the iron content, make a recommendation. And so it just can't wait until August is what I'm saying. So ballpark right now, the first estimate that we had for a filtration system was a little over $11,000. So it's under the bid threshold for us, and just wanted the board to be aware that we would probably be moving on that sooner rather than later. Also then for Adriana and Jim, looking to schedule a facility committee meeting coming up. And also then at table, I normally don't like to do this, but I did provide a couple updates just at table. The first one was an article from the Tribune on Sunday about construction that's been approved in Will County. In the middle column, about halfway down, there's a segment on 143rd and the improvements there. I think we've talked about Cream Road and where the light is going to go in. And so hopefully that will help with traffic flow along 143rd. But just thought it was a good reference to what's happening in Will County. Also then at table, the important thing, and this is sort of fun, so DLA gave us another really sort of a recommendation on how we do our naming on the new additions, where the recommendations are going. So this is an email from Peter Pontarelli from DLA today that I just got, and their designers are recommending that we put our lettering on the canopy of the building as opposed to the brick. I think as you see on this picture on the first page, the lettering was on the brick. It's kind of hard to make out in that situation. But if you go to the third page, you'll see, and I just provided Walsh. You can see how it stands out on the canopy. So the canopy is blue, lettering is that silver color, so it'll pop a little bit better, I think. The question for the board is, do we want to call ourselves Walsh Elementary, or Walsh School, or Walsh Elementary School? So just a quick discussion on the history of it. On our website, we call it Walsh Elementary, Ludwig Elementary, Reed Elementary. Our Illinois report card calls it Walsh Elementary School. Now, I think school is a little bit redundant adding that in, but just sort of wanted to get a sense of where people are at in terms of seeing that.
I like Walsh Elementary. I think it's solid and good.
I like that.
But you need school in it.
Yeah, school seems a little bit redundant.
For letter, no, I'm saying.
Hey, if we could save, sure.
Right.
Well,
right.
Dave, one question real quick.
Yeah.
So on the brick, it looked like it was like metal lettering that was sort of attached to the brick.
Right.
Is that the same that's going to be on the canopy, or is it painted on the canopy?
It'll be adhered to it, so it'll be actually like it'll stand out.
Okay, like
Yeah.
physical
3D.
letters
Visible,
that are
yeah,
attached.
connected to it. So my recommendation was Walsh Elementary, sticking with that naming recommendation
So
there.
we do Reed Elementary, Walsh,
Yes,
and
I think
then
that
Oak
would look-
Prairie. Oh, well, we're not.
Oh, Prairie is just junior high. Yeah, that's what it is. And I believe that was it for my update. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Walsh Elementary it is. All right. More easy decisions. Okay.
Yes.
Mrs. Genzos.
Hi, everyone. In your board packet, you have kind of my update. Summer school is 8 days from being done. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it has gone very smoothly. Attendance has kind of been an issue, so we'll come back to you as we're planning for next year where we want to go with that between the student summer support kiddos and then the ESY kiddos. So we'll look at that. Really, everything's gone well there. Kristen Grahovic's running that, and I have not been over there, and it's been delightful to not have to be there every single day because I can get all these other things done. Early childhood, you know, we have the vacancy with the resignation of Ms. Burris that's on tonight's agenda. We are looking. We have not had good findings as of yet, so we are looking into that. If we were to open the school year with 2 teachers, that gives us 4 sections, and we would be able to start the year. The problem is with early childhood, every time someone turns 3, there's a new child in the classroom, so we can't project, we're gonna get 15, we're gonna get 20, we're gonna get 30. So we are looking hard, hopefully by August, to tell you we have a teacher. That would be the goal, but we are looking at some feasible options there. We did have 13 students come yesterday for our DL screening. Not too many evaluations out of that, so that helps us with numbers, but we still have a lot of interest from families who want to be in our preschool program, which is great. And we should be full so long as we have the teaching staff to do so. The RTO reduction plan is later on in the board agenda, but just to give you some background, this changed probably 2.5 years ago, right before COVID. We use CPI training for students who need physical restraint removal. This seems very formal. You guys have all the background in the school code for it. We have 6 students this impacts in district, so for us, it's really not a large thing. But we have the oversight committee that we got together, and it was actually nice to meet with them because they were seeing things that, unless you're in the classrooms every day, we might not see. So they brought up different training opportunities we could do throughout the next year or so. The goal is to reduce it by 25%. We only have 6 kids. We don't see any issue with that. And actually, when you pull up our reports that we have to give to the state by July 1st, most of ours are timeout. So it's kids needing to leave the classroom or going to take a break. It's not students who are having physical restraints or interventions. For that type of thing, those students typically are in an out-of-district program. So we do not have a large population, but we want to continue to train staff so that they know what to do in those situations, not just our special ed staff, but all the staff working with them. So you have those 3 documents attached there. The reduction plan is not super pretty, but it is the state template, so that was the easiest way to submit the information. So you can see kind of the action plan, what we're going to do there, who's on the oversight committee, and what we'll do for the next year, and then we report that annually to the state. And so long as we're showing a 25% reduction every year, we're meeting compliance. So happy to answer any questions on that.
You might have said this, but the timeliness is that it's new legislation and
Yes.
we need to have a board approved plan by July 1st.
Yeah, the law went into effect August 13th of 2001, but the process changed 2 years ago. So we've already not been putting hands on children for 2 years. So the only way you could not have to submit this plan is if you can show you haven't done it for 3 years. But it stopped a year ago, so it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for our population, but a school that has more physically aggressive students or behavior concerns, a specialty school might have more data than we do. So yes, July 1st we have to submit it by. So if it's approved tonight, then we'll submit it electronically and we'll be done for a year. I know there's a lot of jargon in there, so if you have questions, feel free. I'm happy to answer them, but it's a very small population for us here.
All right. Mr. Witkowski.
Hello, board members. I have opening my agenda today with a discussion actually at first. We have our opening right now, it's the assistant administrative position opening up as of July 1. Our current one is leaving the organization, unfortunately. With that, we have a posting, but unfortunately only get one candidate so far, and that candidate's from out of state. And so I'm looking at alternatives for right now in case we don't get other candidates from in-state. One of which is going out of state and hiring some from out of state and have them work remotely out of state on our system. Or the second option would be hiring a consulting firm. I found one out of Detroit actually does the work for districts as well, where you can pay them a set fee and they'll do like the second tier work for you on your database system for you. The bigger part of this is it's become a new process for us. Because in the past, you always had the life support here on campus, so in case someone had an issue, they could go out to the person and say, okay, how can I help you? You move more to a remote model in this way of saying, okay, well, we have coverage for it, we have the knowledge behind it, but that knowledge is out of state. So it's kind of a discussion of what your thoughts are on that.
Not just the out-of-state, but the idea of a remote employee in this department is a question. Not that we would do it for sure.
Right.
But what concerns or questions would you have?
So I know that the person that applied has experience with Illinois schools and understands the weirdness of the state.
Yes.
Every state is weird and has their own whatevers. So that's obviously a positive. Does the consulting firm have other clients in the state?
I don't know if they have in Illinois per se. I know they have 25 years experience like working with Power School. They're one of 2 vendors approved by Power School to manage for districts across the country. So I mean, I was emailing the person back and forth, and they said they do have some familiarity with Illinois, but not a lot. But they'd be doing more the tier 2 type of stuff, like bigger issues, and we'd be handling more tier 1 type level. But with them, you're buying a block of time, as opposed to hiring somebody to be on site type, or even off site for that matter.
Yeah, I guess that would be my question is, what's the expectation of this role interacting with teachers on a day-to-day basis, giving them support on a day-to-day basis? Because it's very difficult to do remotely, right? It's tough to do it in person, it's even tougher to do it remotely.
I mean, luckily for the most part, the role doesn't involve much with teachers, more secretaries more often. The only thing they work with teachers a lot is during report card season. That's when you get the most calls from teachers because, I forgot to send my grades in time. Can you go back and roll back your grades so I can put my grades in? Right. Majority of the time it's more with the secretaries because it involves maybe a registration issue or a report they need to give to a principal. That's more when you see the questions pop up and with Power School, stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, so my whole staff is across the country, so we're doing everything remotely. And I'll say that the biggest challenges we've had are, some of it is, more personal, like just making the connection with that individual because they're remote. It's hard, you don't run across each other, you're not sitting next to each other, so you don't have those sort of natural conversations, so that they never really feel integrated. The other thing that we've had to deal with, and I don't know that you'd have this concern too, is if you have an all-hands meeting, you either have to be able to provide the remote capability so they can actively participate, or you got to fly them in or have reimbursement for road trips or whatever it might be, right? So there's some of those costs we might have to consider. I don't know, be policy more than anything else, right? You'd have to consider it because you can't make them feel like they're not part of the real part of the district.
It's the right question to be asking, and it is a pretty removed position from teachers. The other tech positions are the ones running out to the buildings, working in classrooms, putting out the fire kind of individuals. So it's more removed, like you said, but definitely the relationship. And I think it also goes back to buying a block of hours versus someone who is kind of one of us, but working remotely, versus still holding out hope for maybe there's someone out there that we haven't yet that we can.
Well, that was my other question was, have we taken another swipe at the position, rec, and is there something that's not attracting, the right talent, right? Do we have I don't know if it's funding or some wording in there that might attract a different, who we're looking for. There's always tweaks you can make to it.
Well, the thing is, it's more a specialized position. That's more the problem. That's so much what we're offering. It's more a matter of, is there people that actually have experience in this type of model? Because it's a specialized database. It's like someone who needs to be trained in Oracle, for example. If you don't know, if you only somebody like know Oracle, you only can hire people who know Oracle. Same with this. It's Power School, and if you only know Power School, have experience with Power School, well, yeah, then you apply for it. But you're saying you have to be trained on, have experience, and I want to leave your current district to a new district.
We don't want to ramp somebody up. It would take a while to ramp somebody up into Power School.
Right.
But Jake, you said even language. You just did that, right? And I don't know if that was just the other day. You had Sandy change the position name on there to better describe that you added Power School into that.
Yes.
Because you got some feedback that would help get more interest. So there's still a chance that a change like that might widen the net or pique somebody's interest.
First, can I ask a silly question? What does SIS stand for?
Student Information System.
Okay, thanks.
So it's the bulk of our database. So we use Power School to do that, and it's it's all the registry information, but a lot of up and down of reports to the state.
Is it a full-time? Does it need to be a full-time? Okay. I wasn't sure of the workload, if you will.
And I'll say the individual, Dan, who's leaving, is amazing, and he brought to us things that we had never had before. He was recruited to come in, and he's getting a promotion as a director of technology somewhere else. So it's a really good thing for him, and the fact that he's leaving that way, he's made it abundantly clear, like, he's going to work his network hard to keep trying to help us. So he's doing his best to not leave us high and dry. He's been willing to, as he transitions to that next position, also give us some time during the bridge. And your team's good at picking up some of the pieces short term. We just don't want this to be a long term. I don't know that we're going to go out and pursue any of these solutions that Bill's presenting in the next few weeks, but we will give you heads up if anything looks like we're going a certain direction. We just really want to have the conversation with the board to pick the idea apart and see what we're missing.
So Power School is on, what's the back end? Is it SQL?
Yeah, Oracle, actually.
It is at Oracle?
Yeah.
And Dan was going back there to run the report, or to write the reports and do those sorts of things?
He was doing combination of that. He was also doing a lot of the front end stuff as far as doing stuff with uploading things to the state, using auditing of like how we ran things in the system, because there's some processes in the past that were not as efficient, very good word, not as efficient as they could have been. So he was trying to make the process better, flow better, and give me recommendations for the future as well of the program. Like we were going to implement a new means of creating users by authenticating off Power School instead of authenticating off AD, and doing it that way, moving that way this summer is one project we're starting to begin with. He has some other ideas as well, I'm going to still try to move forward with through the course of the year. But it's stuff like that. A lot of it was those type of scenarios, but also the basic ends and stuff like running the report cards, helping run the state reports, answering questions from the secretaries or teachers, stuff like that.
And so and I don't know, just an off the top of my head idea of if there is anyone internal that has promise or shows natural ability or whatever, and you possibly using the Detroit company or something, when you backstop them with the hours and maybe grow someone into that position, would be the other piece I would think about.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely, yeah. That's something I was thinking about as well, because the hour rate actually isn't too bad for what the company is offering.
Right.
You were saying that'd be almost like a bridge, as you could potentially be bringing someone up.
Right.
But you've got the backstop.
You have that expertise back there when you can't get it done, or you need, right? Because so much of technology is sort of Swiss cheese knowledge of something, and you need someone sometimes to fill in those holes. And so you have it, this close, and then somebody says, "Oh, it's this," and off you go. So that would just be one other possible avenue.
My only concern with consulting firm on an hourly would be, is it the same group of people or individual that's working our account? Because again, like you said, Swiss cheese, you've got people coming and going. They may spend an entire day just trying to figure out what's our system running versus something else they've been working on. So, but I do, that's an excellent idea. I mean, you can promote somebody, get them educated, and still have that. But that would be my big concern, is having,
two or three people.
There's a few people that are the ones handling our account exclusively.
All right.
All right. There's a couple of things on my agenda. One, on the security piece of things. And our last meeting, I mentioned about going to two-factor authentication. We pushed it out. I've still got 108 people who signed up for it within the district, which is a decent start. But we still need to get more people involved with it. We're just going through Google currently. We got to do more enforcement down the road on that piece of it. And then one other piece is just with the TIL team we're working with. As part of the meetings I'm working on, we're trying to get the curriculum aligned to what we're doing with the students. I think it makes sense. And so we're using the Illinois technology standards, kind of course standards, and the ISTE standards to try to align what they're doing in the classroom to those standards. So it's not just throwing things at a wall, but actually saying, okay, well, this is what they're using at second grade level. What tools are you using for second grade level? Making it match up.
Right.
Any questions?
All right. Thank you. All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 1 through 10 as presented.
Middleton?
Perkala.
Sorry, who was second?
Perkala. I didn't even hear anybody else say anything, sorry.
Thank you.
All right, roll call, please.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Dabke,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Swice, Perkala,
Yes.
Kusterhoff.
Yes. Motion carries. All right, I need a motion to approve the Ludwig School Principal.
Dapke?
Dusteroff? Dr. Arnold?
Okay, and tonight we have here to welcome Mr. Jeff Kulik, and I will give a note to his wife, Jamie, who knows pretty much everybody in the room apparently. She walked in, everybody knew Jamie, and I don't think anybody knew Jeff, so. But we're here to focus on Jeff tonight. We are excited to bring Jeff on board. Jeff went through a fairly rigorous and transparent interview process. We had, everything's listed in there, so I won't go through all the details. I've said this probably several times in the past. I do want to point out, we actually had one of the parents here tonight who was on the interview team, but a lot of good synergy in the room around the process. Jeff's background is laid out in there. Jeff is already chomping at the bit. When can I get in, take a look around the building, kick the tires a little bit, and then when the time is right, get to meet staff, because we've made it clear to everybody we're trying to be really sensitive to take a break in the summer, but I think we all know that teachers will come in at some point once he starts after July 1st to do the little informal meetings and that kind of stuff so we can hit the ground running. I don't know if there's any questions about the process or Jeff as an individual from the board. Be happy to answer any. All right. Jeff, let's see how this goes.
Yes.
Congratulations.
For the opportunity, I appreciate it.
All right, here's the moment of truth. Roll call, please.
Swice, Perkala,
Yes.
Dabke,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Kusterhoff.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
All right, I need a motion to approve the resolution for the transfer of funds.
Washington.
Gurecki.
It is what we talked about
Yes, it's
earlier.
identical to what we talked about, just moving the money so that we can actually expend it, and it's recorded then in the budget.
All right. Roll call, please.
Washington,
Yes.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Swice, Middleton,
Yes.
Dabke,
Yes.
Perkala,
Yes.
Kusterhoff.
Yes. Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the fiscal year 2022 amended budget.
Dapke?
Middleton?
Again, that's what we talked about.
Exactly what we talked about at the hearing.
Okay, roll call, please.
Perkala,
Yes.
Swice, Dabke,
Yep.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Kusterhoff.
Yes, motion carries. I need a motion to approve the new restraint timeout reduction plan.
Perkala.
Washington.
Again, mostly covered in our report.
It's required.
required.
You want something more
Have to do
frilly,
it.
let me know, I can edit the font. You actually can't edit the font, because I tried to make it cute and it didn't work.
All right, roll call, please.
Dabke,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Gurecki,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Perkala,
Yes.
Swice, Kusterhoff.
Yes, motion carries. I need a motion to approve the resolution for expenditures prior to the fiscal year 2023 budget adoption.
Dapke?
Middleton?
All right, so this is a yearly request that comes forward to the board because of not having a July board meeting. Henry Brothers wants to get paid.
As do, I'm sure, a number of
The
vendors.
expenditures will be unusually large, as they have been due to construction.
Yes, the
but
last 3 months
They're
have
going to look
been
similar to what we've been.
Right, there's nothing out,
so far.
nothing else out, out of the norm, like talking about the water filtration system, that might be something that does hit, needs to hit. So otherwise, yeah, the Henry Brothers bills have been roughly the same in the vicinity for the last 3 months.
Okay.
Tim, we would see those in August?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Yep, at the August 16th board meeting.
So just, if you could, Dave, if you get a decision on which water system, just shoot an email about
Absolutely.
which one you chose.
Absolutely. And just context, we're working with Hygineering. It's a tough name to say, but they are consultants for water, air quality. We have them in to do our asbestos checks and all those things. They're actually consulting with us on the solutions for Reed. So this is not myself or Gary or Jim internally trying to throw darts at a wall. We're actually relying on the experts to provide us with their recommendation that we can then say, this is what came from the experts, and we'll implement that as soon as we can.
Okay. We've roll call, please.
Gurecki?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Percola?
Yes.
Swedis? Middleton?
Yes.
Duffy?
Yes.
Westerhoff?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, I need a motion to approve the administrator benefit plan for 2022-23.
Middleton?
Gurecki?
Okay, so this is, per the board's direction, we did make one addition. This is the same template I've used in different times over the years. This applies to all principals and directors who are under TRS. And that would be all your principals and actually the folks you see at the table. And so the addition per our most recent conversation, because the board did approve this in May, but the change has been, there is no substantive change, but for clarity, under Section 4, professional growth, we did clarify that this is identical to the teachers in the 280 per credit hour for coursework reimbursement. And a little bit different, this is, we do currently, and we do see some future administrators and with some retirements coming up, you would anticipate others going for advanced degrees down the road. So as it wasn't as applicable in the past, it's getting more applicable as far as coursework for administrators down the road. So that is the change the board requested. Like I said, it's in the opening of Section 4. I know there was another question. I think it's important to point out, I think it's a really good question from a board member about number 5 under Section 3 for vision insurance. You'll note that it's 0. And so even the administrators, the first time I gave them this form, said, why do you have something on here if it's 0? Well, I think it's important from a transparency standpoint so that we're clear about everything we do or don't do. And vision, you can see a district maybe provide some number of dollars to it or not. So I do like the fact that we put not just what they are receiving, but also what is a 0. And so that's not a change either. We didn't take anything away from the administrators. It's been a 0. Maybe someday in the future that changes, maybe it doesn't. So I just wanted to point out that we do have, I would call number 5, the vision insurance, a placeholder so that, it just goes beyond question. So that's it. There were no other changes other than the board's request for the dollar amount in there.
Roll call, please.
Middleton?
Yes.
Gurecki?
Yes.
Duffy?
Yes.
Washington?
Yes.
Swedis? Percola?
Yes.
Westerhoff?
Yes, motion carries. All right, board policy updates review, first reading.
That's there for the board's information, and went through policy committee. We'll bring it back in August at the August 16th board meeting for a second reading, unless there's any board questions, comments, suggested changes.
All right. The math audit.
The math audit is here. We are still processing it. What I did give to you, and I want to congratulate the board members who were reading the math audit. We have board members who, and I said you might be farther along than some staff in your knowledge of it. So this is hot off the press. And actually, Lisa for the principals, created the presentation you see that is a highlight. That was shared with all teachers at the most recent institute at the end of the year. And then we took that feedback back to Ann Roloff, who did the math audit. She met over the course of a day with teachers from every grade level, 2 grade level reps, and the principal of those schools, and made sure that what was in the findings, her findings, was accurate. And there were actually some changes as a result. Some teachers said, no, we actually see this or that. And so there were some changes. And so what you see here is close to the final document. It's nothing you have to approve, but we want you to know that it's essentially complete. Yesterday I got the final document, but I haven't combed through that. So we'll bring that back in August and share it with you again. But more importantly, no offense to the board, where this is really going to make a difference is once Lisa starts in her new position, making this live with the teachers who teach math all next fall. This isn't something we're going to drop in September and say, okay, now go forward. It's going to take some time when we're talking about how do we increase rigor or other things that were in some of the recommendations. You'll notice there's at least one recommendation that involves the high school. So there's obviously some ongoing dialogue that we can't just say high school do this or that. So we'll explore that next year. And then finally, we did not intend to do this way, but we found out by happenstance that District 91 did a math audit this year also. And so we have a tentative meeting scheduled for myself, Mrs. Light, their superintendent, their director of curriculum, sometime in July to sit down and compare notes, because we really do believe strongly that as feeder districts to the high school, we need to be on the same page. And so we've been working closely with the high school. We want to get the results of the math audit and then continue to see what can we do to make it a seamless transition for our 8th graders going into freshman year for math. We aren't looking, because the question would be then, what about the ELA audit? And I know teachers were asking at the end of the year, and the original plan was do a math audit. It's more linear, and so it's a shorter time frame. We planned on doing that spring semester of 22, and then getting the results, and then now that we're used to the process, jumping into ELA. We're going to take at least the fall off. I can't tell the board when we'll start the ELA process, but that's the kind of question we'll go to DLT with. We'll talk about when is that right time. If you're a junior high ELA teacher, you're ready tomorrow. Like, that's your thing. But we have K through 5 also, and that's not the only subject matter they teach. So we're probably going to need some kind of a pause before we jump into another audit. And the person we used was in retirement, now is fully retired, so we won't be able to go back to her for this also. So a lot coming on that, but once again, we're going to take what we have, process it well, and then jump into ELA at some point.
I just want to compliment this presentation. I thought it was well done for somebody who doesn't live in the education world other than my role here. It was laid out easy enough for somebody who's not in education to actually follow through and understand. So I appreciate this presentation.
The principals all do this funny thing of taking turns, and you never know who's going to pop up which time to say, I'll do this, and then they share it with everybody else. And it gives us the uniformity. So the fact that one principal created this, we've got lots of examples of other principals doing similar things, but then sharing it out gives us that consistency across the district. We talked in alt about what we wanted to emphasize, how we're going to do that, and then the principals went and did that at their own building for their own grade levels, and it worked well.
Yeah,
we think so.
Excellent.
Yep.
And I'm glad to hear we're taking a pause on the ELA. So that's great.
Just catching our breath.
Yep.
Well, it's good because you get to implement, basically review what you've done. You've taken the critiques from staff, try and streamline and really, focus on some of those issues, and again, that comment about the 90 minutes of dedicated, that's tough. I mean, that's just plain tough, and that's a big ask to try and figure out how do we do that. So I think taking the fall to kind of dive into that is going to be really critical. And then you've done your review, you've done installation of your process. So then when you do ELA, you've got both sections ready to go.
We'll keep rolling that out.
All right. Strategic priorities summit.
That update is summative as of today. You'll notice in the update, we knew at the beginning of this process the I don't want to say most important goals, but we're here for the student learning, right? And that does involve SEL, but we do have a math and an ELA district-wide IAR target, And we knew, we don't usually get those. We get those unofficially in the summer. We're not allowed to report those out typically till around Halloween. They give us permission to unembargo those. So we'll get the results this summer, we would expect, but it'll be mid-fall before we're able to really start seeing where our targets are going with that. But we're excited. Teachers have really worked hard with students to get those results on the state test. We continue to look at, and this will be one of the things that Lisa Like picks up right away, is really defining those priority standards at all grade levels. We've done the bulk of the work and things like math, and the math audit we'll use to secure those if they're not secure already, but we really do want to have those secure in every subject area. So that'll be a work in progress. We'll look to continue next year. We did do, and this has been reported already, so the achievement around a balanced system of assessments, we did get a class, a cohort going early, midwinter in January, February, maybe March, I can't remember. And the goal was then the thought was that would turn into an assessment task force. The way March, April, and May were, we decided to put a hold on the assessment task force. You should expect that to come back sometime next year to really move forward our assessment work once again under Lisa's leadership. Kind of exciting, the learning culture piece. So that was tied to, we've been using the CASTLE rubric, which you can look at that. There's a school-based rubric and a district-based rubric, but for the past 2+ years now, about 2.5, the principals and schools have been measuring their progress through this rubric. For the first time for this, I've compiled 2 years back-to-back of growth data. So we look at where our schools, all 4 schools were 2 years ago, and then compared to this year. And the net is kind of exciting. There's some links that you can look at as a board member, but level 1 is the lowest level. So over the past year, from 21-22, compared to the year prior, the lowest level that you'd rate yourself, we had district-wide of all of our schools, we had 32 indicators in level 1. Now last year, that reduced to 10. So from the bottom, we've gotten a big jump, 2/3 off into some higher level. But then you look at our level 3, the highest, you wouldn't expect to have very many, if any, level 4. You're really rock and roll, and you've been doing this for several years. But level 3s went from, we had 16 indicators across all 4 schools 2 years ago. This year we had 35, so we achieved over double the number. So there's a lot of growth in there. I think, I can't remember if I gave the real granular results to the board, and this is something we need to keep talking about at district leadership team and with the board. When we report data out like this in public, how deep do we go in the data? At district leadership team, it's okay to show grade level data. We are a little bit more careful showing grade level data in a public forum, right? We don't ever want to create a situation where we line something up and it looks like we're calling out a grade level because they're super awesome or they're really struggling with a certain thing. So I think that's an area that we want to keep talking about because we always want to be transparent. We would always share some results with board members, but we want to be careful about not doing something to set us backwards from a trust issue with that. So we're still working on that. Some things we will report out grade level data, but I think this one I was careful with not to get to that point. I think it's all school-based that you're seeing. The same would be said for the next area, and that is the professional culture goal was all around implementing PLCs. I want to continue to give us credit. We implemented PLCs this year with a learning by doing model, meaning we didn't take a year to do PD. We jumped in and gave PD as we implemented it throughout the year. So when you start that process, it's going to feel very awkward at first because you don't for sure know the end in sight. But I will tell you from looking at the results on the chart, we did hit the target. Our goal was to, and I think this is available for the public if I remember correctly. I can't remember what I did that because I don't think there's anything that would have revealed a problem. District-wide, yes, these are district results, so of all of our PLCs, and we don't just have PLCs this past year in our grade levels. We did have some groups, special education at most buildings, maybe art, music, PE, different versions of that, different departments, even LMC had some PLCs going. So we tried to take the aggregate of the results that were reported, and our goal was to achieve 3 as an average, and we did that across the board. We're very pleased with those results, so I've color-coded those and put those in a form for the board to review. So now it's just taking what our lower areas were, seeing if there's particular PD needs to support teams next year, and next year is going to be really that where it starts making sense to the teachers. They know from day one what they're trying to accomplish during their time. We know we'll need some extra data training, data analysis training will be a part of that, especially as we get into the assessment piece next year.
Tim, can I pause you for 1 second?
Please do.
Is there supposed to be a document with this that I'm supposed to be looking at? Because I don't have
I was thinking the same thing.
I don't have a
That's gonna be my
PDF
question.
that's with the summative, the strategic priorities.
Just that part or the whole, so you
I mean, I had the
Yeah.
curriculum audit, I have the parent handbook, but I have no link to a document
link in-
for.
Not in board books.
Not in board book?
I can send
I
it
will
out.
get that to you. I'm looking at Sandy to see if I didn't release something correctly. I must have.
I don't, it looked
I've got
like,
the summative.
can you see?
I
it?
refreshed my screen, it's still.
But
Wait, oh,
I've got.
Yeah, is this what you're talking, can you show that? Is that what you're talking about?
See,
You
if
don't
you're,
have
if
that.
you're logged in as.
Oh, are you logged?
We're not logged in as us.
You're not gonna see it.
I thought I was.
no,
This hasn't.
the
been
agenda was just on our screens. You didn't log into board book.
You need to log into board.
Okay, my fault.
That's okay.
That's.
I didn't do it
I
either.
didn't
I
even.
know, but
I thought we were already on there.
What did I mess up?
I mean, my name is on the top of the screen. It says Grant Verkluck.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Mine's not.
Hold on.
So if I didn't
I did not
do
log in.
something
Let me
correct,
do
I
this.
don't know what I didn't do.
strange.
But we weren't ready to release that to the public yet, so that's
Okay.
my
Under
guess.
view options, do you show everything? Sarah,
Or show it
Okay,
to.
cool.
Show attachment.
How do you,
It's at home,
how
but
would you
not
even
at the
log in?
top there, right at the top.
if you click on the icon.
You have to, board book premiere in the upper right-hand corner.
And then,
It bounces you out, and then there's a login.
Got it.
That would help.
yeah.
Show it.
Oh, wrong email.
That's policy.
It's throwing it there.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but
It is weird.
whatever.
Can
We'll
certainly
get it at
email
another point.
Yeah, I'll make sure
Right,
you
it's
get it
fine.
in your hands
I
after.
don't want to hold this up.
And you'll notice the greens, I do want to point out, the greens, I've been resistant to.
Oh, I got it now. Oh, sorry.
That's okay, so.
I logged in and it worked.
All right, I do apologize, you weren't seeing that earlier. So we want to shoot for blues. I do want to point out that the greens are related to COVID in an indirect way. We made some intentional decisions in April and May to put a pause on things, committee work, DLT, and including the superintendent parent advisory team. So some important work that was planned to happen in April or May or even June. We did not do the full day-long DLT meeting in June. Caused us to put a pause on some of this, which got us almost to the goal, but not quite there. And that does include, I know Bill in his memo mentioned the Future Ready framework. It's more than 50% complete, but the problem is there's a gear assessment that requires teachers to assess gears. And we weren't willing in April and May to go to our teachers and say, here's one more thing to do. Take some time with your building leadership team to assess these gears under Future Ready Learning. So these are all things that Bill and I have sat down, we've mapped out a plan to bring back to the TILT team starting in the fall. So we're definitely not walking away from these plans. But I think that leads to a board discussion tonight and in the future of where are we going with some of these goals? How do we want to look at an implementation goal, which most of these are, versus a goal that was more of a traditional SMART goal, which is like your IAR type of goals. The one thing I don't have results because they are by grade level, but I do want to celebrate I think all except for one in our first year of writing and being accountable for SMART goals, we're very impressed with how each grade level came out. I think there was one grade level that maybe just missed their target, but remember, they were making targets with no trend data. They were really throwing darts. So it wasn't about hitting your goal or not that your grade level made on FastBridge. It was about practicing the process of setting a SMART goal target, because we had some grade levels who went really aggressive, like we want to be high with our target, we know we may not hit it, but we want to really push, and they got results. We maybe had some that took the approach of, in year one, we want to set a low target, make sure we can celebrate a win, and then we'll get some trend data and make a smarter SMART goal in the future, and they made some progress. So it was about the process, not every grade level hitting their targets. I do foresee a future as grade levels teams get better at, here's our past data, here's a realistic target that our strategy can get us to, and then we can report that out at a board level. We just weren't comfortable doing that. Once again, we don't want to be in a situation where we're defeating people, because we're just practicing. It was, how do you set targets? But we were really happy with the results, good student growth coming out of COVID.
On some of that, just my own opinion on things like SMART goals and setting those targets is that when we do set aggressive targets and when, or even when we think they're realistic and we still miss, I think modeling that failure to students is important, and modeling that here's what we thought we could do, we tried, we still didn't make it.
Yep.
A failure is not a failure. Right? It's learning. It's learning. So, I mean, the fact that only one didn't exactly get to there, but again, as we move forward, and it becomes almost more difficult probably in the future once you have those trend data, you might have a misstep, but still being able to celebrate and recognize that there's learning in not making the target.
The approach I haven't talked with the board or teachers about, but when I've gotten to this level in the past, where I would recommend we go next year, and I'm not going to get too technical tonight, I promise, but let's say you set a target for, pick any number, 80%. What I'd recommend we do when teams are setting those targets for themselves is create, so then you set this thing like it's, what if they're 79? What if they do all that work and they're 79? Is that a fail? To your point, but that's even a different question. So there are ways that we can talk about when you set your target, what's the percent below your target that we would still call meet, right? So if you say 80, maybe we create a district-wide system that says, okay, we get it if you're X number single-digit percentage points below or above your meet. Because if you're 81, you're not exceeding, right? Or were you? So there's a conversation to have with building level teams about when did you go beyond meet? If it's 80, is 85 exceeds? Is 87? Is 90 exceeds? So I think when we have this was a good practice. I think that would have been too much in year one. But what I'm going to pivot to quickly is your target is 80. That's what you want to hit. Where's a cushion above and below? So it's your plus and minus that we're all used to. That still meets. And there's a point when it's like, wow, we just really fell short. And then when do we really celebrate, wow, you went way above where you were shooting for with the students. So that's the next iteration of the conversation. As we get better at how do we write SMART goals and be accountable for them, myself included. So other questions about the strategic priorities? You've been getting the reports on Dave's. Dave's very labor intensive, has been met and met and met. So. All right. Let's see. Student handbook?
Yeah.
Any other questions
any other
about
questions
strategic priorities?
Okay. Student handbook.
Student handbook has not significantly been touched for 3 years. We took a big stab at this. If you ask the admin team, what we would tell you is the whole thing probably needs to be reorganized. It is very messy. When you look at the red line document that you see tonight, I apologize for the messiness of it. I don't think we're comfortable with the order of things. I think the whole thing needs to be blown apart and put back together. We are going to explore using the IPA version of the model student handbook If you want to know what that is, think of press for policy. So we have through IASB, they give us updates on policy that keeps us legal. We implement them and move forward. There's a version of that for student handbooks through the Illinois Principals Association. That's one thing we'll explore this summer, early next year. Regardless, we see ourselves putting together a team of teachers and parents to look at the handbook holistically next year and probably bring you something that looks very different. But to start next year, what I'll bring back to you in August based on your feedback, you have a red line document right now. We need something to hit the ground running, and the admin feels comfortable with the changes in here for the next year. I'll give you a big highlight. When you get to the levels of discipline section, we know that we need to move away from that. We've updated enough to get by for a year, but we did remove things like a point merit system and things like that that just weren't being used and didn't make sense. But we just didn't have the time to blow the whole thing up this year. And we want to do that in a year that we're not dealing with remote learning and every mask and everything else, and really get teachers and parents and students to the table to talk about what changes, what would it look like, and we'll have this by the end of next year for 23-24. So we're excited about that, but you've got a good enough version in there now. So board members, you've got 2 months really to give feedback. If you've got questions, we can talk, and then we can integrate any questions, concerns you have into the final draft we bring back for your approval on August 16th.
Yeah, and the student voice part, I think, is important.
I should have said that first.
In the handbook.
And this is prime for that.
Right.
And the board committee membership, like we said, we paused a lot of that at the end of the year. There's room for different committees, other committees, but that's just typically what I get you thinking about. I'm not asking for volunteers tonight. It's just putting it out to you, knowing that we'll be asking come August who wants to do what. Certainly, if you're interested, give me a heads up sooner. We're still having the facilities committee with Adriana and Jim throughout the summer, and then we'll open that up to see if there's any changes or not come fall. And that's it. Like I said, that's why I passed on my administrative report earlier.
All right, there's no old business. New business.
I was looking to just maybe have a discussion or throw it out there to think about changing our procedure for board meetings going forward, and look at maybe doing closed session prior to the meeting so that we are held in some constraint. And I know it's a practice that we use at the high school district. They do closed session that leads up to the meeting. There's a couple of benefits that would be there. One, puts you in constraint so that you aren't running on and on into the wee hours of the morning. But two, definitely when it comes to some personnel things that need decisions and some votes on, you're able to have some of those discussions prior to when needing to make that vote, which could help us in some of those concerns where with the consent agenda and things like that, we can bring those things to light in closed session about individuals and simple things. So just something to throw out there. I don't know about you guys, but my life doesn't work well when I know that I'm going to be here till 11 o'clock, and I'd like to try to fix that. So one of the things that I just thought we would maybe have a little discussion about.
You got my vote. I like it. The only question I would have, and I could be missing something, is that if there were things that we needed to talk about after the meeting, is that still an option? Can you do before, as long as we have like flexibility there, where if something does happen that it does need to continue and we have to put a pause on it, we can pick it back up after?
Yeah, it is a possibility. You would not even adjourn it.
You can go into closed session as many times as you want during any given meeting. The only criteria is it has to be for a legal reason, which you do. We would never let you go into for an illegal reason. So you could pause any board meeting at any time, and you could go in 8 different closed meetings. I'm not recommending it. Before, during, and after if you wanted to.
And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
go ahead, keep going.
I was just gonna say, would it be like a set time, like how will we, yeah, I mean, I know we get like board book and then, you know,
Yeah.
okay.
I would think if as a board we agree to start doing that, we should be planning to be here at 6. And when the only thing on there is a new hire of a principal, which we anticipate not being a lengthy process, but having questions, making sure we're all on the same page. Tim and I or whatever decide 6:30 is enough time to do it. We would just start it at 6:30 for the half hour, right? But from a personal organization of our families and work, if we can agree to that 6 o'clock is when we'll start, then we have that flexibility.
That was gonna be my question, as somebody whose working hours are 8 to 4:30 and I work up in Oak Brook. I mean, there is flexibility there, as long as I have a heads up, right? Like today I was in a meeting until 4:30, and so by the time I got back, it was 5:30.
Right.
So, as long as I know ahead of time, I'm totally okay with it. I agree with you, Grant, like, you know, those late evenings you just get emotions and tiredness and everything involved, and it's not beneficial for anybody, so.
All right, I'm gonna take one look at my
Good idea, Grant.
my survey that I sent, and I want to see if I think we were close to an agreement, or what do you call it?
Consensus.
A consensus. Thank you. My words escape me sometimes. All right, I'm still missing two responses. But August 17th, Wednesday, August 17th, looks like the date that we're going to try to do the board self-evaluation.
Oh, I had a question about that survey.
Okay.
Is that, what is your time?
Oh, it would be a regular meeting. It would be an evening meeting.
Oh, got it. Because I was going to select all the dates, and then I was like, wait a second, am I selecting to take a vacation day?
No. It would be a meeting. You know,
Okay.
It would just be an evening meeting for, I would guess, 2 to 3 hours would be my guess.
Okay, then that's fine.
Okay. So
I can still respond to the survey if you want me to, but
the 17th works?
yes.
Okay, so we're 99% there. I will try to button that up and get that all out to people, and solidify the date with the person from IASB that I spoke with today, who would facilitate. Another big word. Facilitate that, which is a requirement of doing that. So, all right, great. We had our ROE compliance review. There was a document that was, we're in compliance. We're in compliance, thank you. Our regular staffing memo or counts for FTE. FOIA was in there. We had one, right? Just the one, and we responded to it. And then the student contact review. All right. Then there was one thank you card in the communications. Any other public comments, Andy?
No.
All right. I need a motion to go into closed session for the board may enter closed session for the purposes of 5 ILCS 120C subsections 1 and 2. Do I have that motion?
Stopke.
Middleton.
Roll call, please.
Twice. Kirkland.
Yep.
Krapke.
Yes.
Washington.
Yes.
Middleton.
Yes.
Gurecki.
Yes.
Juster.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. See you in August.